I love this time of year in the NBA. It is trade season where we see more and more trades as we get closer to the trade deadline, even though the bulk of trades will actually happen on the day of the deadline. And while rumors, speculation, and mock trades will continue to circulate until we get to that deadline on February 6th, we did get our first, I don't know if we should call it a big trade, but the biggest trade to date this season, with the Brooklyn Nets agreeing to trade their two-way veteran Dorian Finney-Smith to the LA Lakers in exchange for D'Angelo Russell, Maxwell Lewis, and 3 second-round picks, all of them being the Lakers' own picks in 27, 30, and 2031. And initially, when this trade broke, I thought this was a great deal for the Lakers, a great trade for both sides, really considering the path the Nets are going down and really embracing the tank. But my first reaction was this was an incredible move for the Lakers to further bolster their roster, give them some more depth, some much needed defense, veteran leadership. But then as I thought about it more and more and started breaking down some of the numbers and realized while this is still a good trade for the Lakers overall, I don't know that this move is really going to fix their core issues at hand, and by making this move, it likely means they're not going to be able to make any additional moves prior to the deadline to really try and get this team back into title contention, and I'll explain why in this video. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, then be sure to subscribe, and in return, I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, I think most rational NBA fans, unless you're a delusional, overly optimistic Lakers fan, would agree that as currently constructed, the Lakers are not a championship contending team, especially in a loaded Western Conference. They're probably a play-in team, a 5 seed at best, and while they do have star power with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, there are a lot of flaws and weaknesses on this roster that would really prevent them from making any kind of noise in the playoffs. And it's for a few reasons. One, aside from the fact that they're in a highly competitive conference, one in which you have teams that were below them last season that have surpassed them this season, teams like the Memphis Grizzlies, the Houston Rockets. You also have those teams that have gotten off to a slower than expected start this season, but are still a threat, like the Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves. But even just the competitive nature of the Western Conference aside, the Lakers, prior to this trade for Dorian Finney-Smith, were not a good defensive team. Bottom 10 in the league on defense. They're bottom 5 in the league in opponent field goal percentage. They give up a lot of threes as they're at their worst when it comes to defending the perimeter and the point of attack. They're horrible when it comes to their overall transition defense, which is especially evident when they're playing young, athletic, high-paced teams. And then on the offensive end, while their offense is better than their overall defense, there really isn't anything to write home about for them on that end of the floor. One of the biggest things the Lakers struggle with is their shooting. They don't have enough shooting threats, especially from outside. They're second to last in the league in three-point volume, 27th in the league in overall threes made. They're not a great team in transition. They thrive mostly in the half court and scoring inside, which impacts their overall pace. They get to the foul line at a high rate, but they don't shoot it from the line at a high clip, shooting just 78% from the line as a team, which is league average. They don't rebound the ball well. They're one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA, particularly on the offensive glass. They're a bottom 5 team in second chance points. So yes, you get the picture. There are a lot of issues with this team that really prevent them from being a true title contender. So over the past few weeks, it was becoming more and more clear that the Lakers were going to be aggressive on the trade market and look to upgrade their roster to try and get them to the next level, to try and win a championship in LeBron's final years. And we heard, well, they're looking to add another star. Maybe they'll look for a play to get Zach LaVine, who's having one of the best seasons of his career. Nikola Vucevic was linked to the Lakers for a bit, as the Lakers had made it clear they were looking to add a starting center, so Anthony Davis could focus solely at the 4. You had Cam Johnson linked to the Lakers. Some thought maybe they're going to make a play at Jimmy Butler. The challenge in all of these, though, was the money. The Lakers, being a first apron team, just barely under the second apron, they were limited in what they could do in trading for some of these high contracts because the CBA rules prevent them from taking in more money than they would send out. And any trade that would put them over the second apron would prevent them from doing a deal where they could aggregate contracts in a trade. As such, the Lakers decided to pivot and go after a very sought-after player on the trade market in Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, let me talk about why this trade is good for the Lakers first. First and foremost, Dorian Finney-Smith is actually a very good player, a very underrated player that doesn't get enough love in my opinion. He's a very smart player that knows where he needs to be on defense, big time hustle player, fights through screens, defends the pick and roll well, which the Lakers absolutely need, but he's also having one of his best seasons on offense, shooting a career high from deep at 43% in over 5 attempts per game, again, something the Lakers need, a top 3-and-D guy, and so you're talking about a player that can instantly come in and impact this roster to provide a position of need. What's also great about this trade for the Lakers is because he's on a very reasonable contract relative to his production. He's currently making $15 million a year, has a player option next season for $15.3 million. And so by doing this trade and moving D'Angelo Russell's expiring deal, they're saving roughly $10 million in tax. And then probably most importantly, that I don't think people are talking about enough, by snagging Dorian Finney-Smith, it takes him off of the board for other conference rivals to pick him up, who we know were after him. The Grizzlies were even looking to trade a protected first-round pick for him. So you prevent other teams in the West from further adding to their depth and landing him yourself instead. That said, as great as all of this sounds, the biggest critique I have of this trade is, well, one, you moved D'Angelo Russell, who was really your main tradable chip from a salary matching perspective. Like in all of the mock trades that media outlets were putting out over the past few weeks, the Lakers, for all those trade scenarios, involved D'Angelo Russell because they had to in order to make the money work, where the Lakers weren't taking back more money than they were sending out, but still taking back a big enough contract for a decent enough of a player to upgrade their roster. So by moving D'Angelo Russell in this trade, the Lakers are really limiting themselves from being able to do much of anything else that would give them meaningful change and upgrades to their roster. Yeah, they can trade Hachimura, but he doesn't have much value on the market right now, especially at his contract. Austin Reeves would have some value, but his contract isn't enough where they could send out his deal and bring back a better player in return, since again, they wouldn't be able to take back more salary, and Austin Reeves isn't making that much money. So outside of that, who else are they trading on their roster that is going to really move the needle for them? So that's the big downside to this trade. But two, at the end of the day, is Dorian Finney-Smith really fixing this team? Like, let's be real, a solid player, he will be an impact player for the Lakers, but is Dorian Finney-Smith suddenly making the Lakers a title contending team? And if he's not, was it really worth sending out 3 second-round picks to get him? 2 second-round picks that you very well may need, considering all those will be conveying after LeBron and even Anthony Davis retire, with 2 of them being more than 5 years out from now. So yes, in a vacuum, it's a nice trade for the Lakers. It is an upgrade overall from D'Angelo Russell. But does it really solve things for this team? I really don't think it does. And it would be different if you could say, well, they're not done. They still have the trade chips and assets to get another star player or even just a couple solid role players. They really don't have the ability to do that now after moving D'Angelo Russell's contract. It's just not very practical at this point. Now, for the Nets, there really isn't much to say other than the fact that they got great value for a player they acquired by offloading Kyrie Irving and were able to flip him for some second-round draft capital. Moving a player that doesn't fit their timeline, which will likely lead to subsequent moves like trading Cam Johnson. And then the Nets tank for a chance at a franchise player in this year's draft. Great move for them, solid move for the Lakers, but I don't think it fixes their core issues at hand. I would love to know what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.